we're live. All right, I'm going to copy them to you, Ralph. You don't see the private chat history when you log in, do you?
No.
Oh, I didn't know it did that. That's fun.
This first title looks great. Oh.
We got some good ones today.
I got a couple good ones. Yeah, I'm pulling them up as he's sending them right now.
This will likely be in this order.
Oh, he actually said this announced this at RSA. I made the statement at the RSA conference. Wow.
Yeah, he did. It was kind of crazy.
Is Rob coming on today?
I don't know.
You never know. He's a busy man.
That's the last one in the chat window. In the
What?
private chat window for those of us watching. Like,
Yeah,
I don't see it. No, not your chat. Not yet.
It will come.
I'm feverishly looking up all these articles real quick and reading them all so that we know what we're talking about. No.
We got a
It's
couple
like cramming
minutes.
for a test.
Yeah. I'm cramming for the test in the testing room.
Yes.
Don't even have notes written down. I'm just
It's like you're
I'm
sitting down for a test you're taking on a computer and researching the stuff on the computer you will be taking the test on.
Did you ever take any exams where it was like open book, right? So you're just like,
oh yeah,
you can just like look through the book, but like that thing's just crammed full of nonsense, and they always find some like obscure mention that they knew you had to read. I think isn't that how all the SANS classes were, or like the test?
I was just about to say this isn't the SANS open book test, right?
Yeah, like they're like, oh, you're just reading through the book as fast as you can, just looking for that one like little thing. I don't know. I'm more like a practical guy. That's why I really like the OSCP and stuff. Especially with our particular job, as opposed to just like being like, well, I know this answer off the top of my head, right? Like,
right.
I don't know. Some people are really good at remembering, like just are cramming and getting that stuff in their brain, like ready to recall it. I actually read a whole book about that. Like they call it like memory palaces, where people like make puzzles to remember.
Oh
stuff,
yeah,
right.
Yeah,
so like
you walk into a room and there's 8 golf clubs, and that signifies something to you. And I never could do it.
The book was actually just about what do you call it? The idea that having a good memory has nothing to do with necessarily like an inherent birth ability, right? It's actually a skill that you practice and you work at it. It's kind of like, going out to the gym or doing something like that. So, and after you work at it enough, you can actually remember something. Like photographic memory doesn't exist, right? But people who are really good at this can do things that appear as if they have photographic memory, right? But it's a skill, right? So anyways, it was kind of cool.
Yeah. I'm always skeptical whenever someone says, I have photographic memory. I'm like, really? Thumb through this book and tell me what the fourth word of the second sentence is.
Come on, haven't you seen Rain Man? Come on.
Yeah.
And then they hand you the book, Dale, and say, okay, fine, you do it then.
I don't have a photographic memory. So.
Yeah, well, that's just the thing. The whole book was about how it doesn't exist and how that people actually compete in competitions, in memory competitions, right? And how that, it's a skill and you work it up, and, that people finesse and figure out the best things that work for them, and that it's it's like becoming good at basketball or good at any sport, right? There's like fundamentals and there's practice and all this other stuff that goes into it, and it's not just like, oh well, I was born with photographic memory, pretty cool.
Yeah. It's like those crazy smart kids at the spelling bees who can remember like 400 letter words. I'm like, I don't even know what that word is. Like, you're 12 years old. How do you even know that word?
And the only reason the person who asked you to spell it knows what it is because they looked it up in a book.
Yeah. An obscure reference. Whatever.
All right. I think this is the crew for today. Should we go for it?
Let's do it.
Or you still need a minute, Ralph?
Gosh. I mean, I'm definitely going to be winging this, so we can all hold on if anybody else has jumped in these.
For those who don't know, the news is live, so and it will show here shortly.
Yeah, it's just going to show. We all have day jobs too, so we come out here for you guys, though. All right, let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, here we go. And 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome to Black Hills Information Security, talking about the news. I'm going to be your host today, Ralph May. John is away at a training as usual and probably saving the world or doing whatever else he does when he's not on the newscast. We actually have a decent sized cast today. Well, we got 2 more people, right? We got Noah and we got Dale. And we also got Ryan, the shootist, who's running in the background and making all these graphics move around. So we all look like we're in the right position, in the right spot.
Making people motion sick.
Yeah, motion sickness is actually his specialty, if you didn't know.
That's right.
In addition to all of that, we are going to talk about some news articles today and hopefully have some banter and, go back and forth about how, somebody messed up and, we can make it better or whatever it is. So.
Speaking of mess ups.
Speaking up of, yeah, I was going to say.
I've been working on my transitions. Does it show?
That was smooth.
Oh, so SolarWinds, the gift that keeps on giving. Man, when it happened, I felt like we were never going to stop talking about it. And you're right. SolarWinds CEO expresses regret for the blaming of an intern. Why did this seem like it was going to happen, right? So for everyone who doesn't know, SolarWinds blamed the hack on an intern because that's what you do now when you're in a sticky spot, right?
Well, I mean, they didn't blame the hack in its entirety. They blamed, the hack was blamed on a really poor password, which the poor password was blamed on the intern. But yeah.
Who was probably just following instructions because they're an intern.
And that's what interns do.
Well, okay, so the password was supposedly, all right, for everyone who doesn't know, the password was SolarWinds 123. This is really common. Password. Really? Yes. This is supposedly what it was.
Oh, yeah, it's right there. I see it in the article now.
SolarWinds, or let's just step back. Company name, numbers, usually an exclamation point, very popular for passwords, right? So a lot of companies moved to blacklisting and other things to kind of, find that automatically and pull it out. But, that it's a really common thing to happen. And it's really bad when that ends up being like the Achilles heel for the whole attack. So, and it was also on a GitHub server. A lot of mistakes were made.
Mistakes were made.
We can't cover all of the mistakes in this cast.
we don't have enough time to cover all the mistakes that were made. Listen, we all make mistakes. This one just happens to live on forever, right? So, maybe they shouldn't have blamed an intern. What do you guys think? Would you guys have blamed an intern?
I mean,
I can say that now though, and they're probably saying, "Oh, we know whether to blame the intern," but hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah,
I mean, I should say, like, if you don't occasionally check up on your interns to make sure that they're not setting like super obvious passwords, or really any user for that matter, whether it's an intern or a full-fledged developer, like, you have some work to do.
I mean, so the other thing too, and I guess they kind of go up about this in the articles, they said blaming the intern may affect how new employees feel about employment there, right? Like whether they'll want to work why. There. I know. Oh, yes, exactly.
Is that because they're afraid of being blamed, or because they know there's no security awareness program?
It's probably both. But I mean, think about it this way. Obviously, they've established the fact that interns are the lowest in the totem pole in the sense of getting blame, right? I don't really think it's very professional to blame your interns for a huge security incident, even if it was them who set that up, right? Like, you got to take some ownership yourself and just be like, well, I mean, we messed up, right? I mean, there was a lot of failures, and this one person wasn't, the only thing, right?
This
So-
kind
so
of
I'm
even
curious.
boils down to something like clicking a phishing link. I mean,
Mhm.
and I know this might upset some people, but like if you think that it's a good excuse for like, oh, we were breached because Dave in accounting clicked this link, like that was not the only failure of your cybersecurity.
Yeah.
You should have other stuff to help prevent that from being the complete failure of your cybersecurity.
Yeah. When it's only one person.
So I'm curious. Did the was the intern let go?
I can
as a
imagine.
result?
I don't think he works there. Yeah, I just my
I
guess.
was under the impression that like it was like a former intern who had like come and left well before this ever went down, but that was my
Okay.
interpretation.
Yeah, supposedly this had been on GitHub for years. So, and that's what the article says here.
But it had also been reported, I think I recall. I mean, I don't have that in writing in front of me, but I feel like I heard that it was reported to SolarWinds at one point as well.
Gosh, I also love too. They say they violated our password policy and they posted that password on their own private GitHub, right? So I mean, like okay, so yeah, all right. So failures happen, right? So I'm just thinking about. Yeah, I'm like, so listen. At the end of the day, your employees are not perfect and they're going to make security mistakes. Okay. We all make security mistakes. But the point is that if that one mistake happens, that shouldn't be the Achilles heel that takes everything down. Right. And, you should have layered defenses to try to work through it and detect this. And, there's a lot of other stuff that comes after that. Right. And people are going to make mistakes and you have to just assume that somebody's going to do something like this, and how you're going to handle it is how you have a secure mature security posture. Jesus. So I don't know. Poor intern.
Mm-hmm. Well, this will cheer you up. Crypto mining, just for you, Ralph.
Oh God. Oh, I don't have that link. Yeah, they're bad. Which one are they talking about in this one though? Because there's a bunch right now.
This is gangs are running amok on platforms.
Was this the GitHub one?
No.
I think it might have been.
Yeah, no, I think
being
this
abused
is
on GitHub. It says
Yeah.
right here.
So I could talk to a couple things. So what they're doing
I
is
see what you
using
mean.
continuous, or the CI, continuous integration, to run crypto mining and other things like that, depending on what it is and what the cryptocurrency is and how that operates. What they're doing is just getting free CPU resources, because these continuous integrations, they usually run some kind of program on a server one time, and they just burn up the CPUs doing it, and they can do it for free, right? Now, how much they can do of it is all dependent, and there is different, levels and amounts of runtime that you get on all these servers. But they're really meant to just help people who are developing in some kind of CI pipeline, like on GitHub Actions and Microsoft Azure. What do they call that? They've got another name for that. GitLab. All these have CI integrations so that you can build your whatever it is, program, run it, test it, all in a virtual machine, most likely Docker containers, which makes it super easy to kind of turn that into a crypto miner or whatever it may be to make money. Crypto is hot right now, so mining is also hot, right? Resources, going and stealing that. So
yeah, and you can totally go on Docker Hub and find like crypto mining images that you can pull down and stuff like that. It's not even remotely hard.
That makes me wonder, we've got these large, like some quite large retail companies. I'll say retail specifically because that's the one that jumped to my head. But it makes me wonder how many of these companies are leveraging their large fleets of desktop computers out there to do their own internal crypto mining for their own purposes.
Probably none.
I'm surprised. I mean, I would.
I know, right? It seems like
I will say,
idle for like
this thought has crossed my mind when I was a sysadmin, and like I never acted on it, but like I would be lying if I didn't say that like for a very brief moment I was like, I wonder how much I could make off all those extra CPU cycles.
None of this has ever crossed my mind. Not once. Never thought of it.
There's someone somewhere who owns like a franchise of car washes, and they're doing that with their office computers for sure.
So you can't really make much with regular CPUs nowadays. So you kind of got to move into GPUs. GPUs actually kind of demand a premium, and most people who have them use them for some real purpose, right? Like video gaming, so on and so forth. So, that kind of market for reusing up rigs to do that is kind of, not very profitable. In addition, most companies are like, no, we need that computer, and we don't want to like mine it in the after hours and then burn it out or whatever it may be, right? Most companies have a purpose, and they're making money doing whatever, selling widgets or whatever service they offer. That's how they make money. So they want to focus on that, not just like, hey, how do I reuse these 1,000 Dell Optiplexes that I have, right? So,
Or we could just start a company that its sole purpose was for mining on office computers.
Yeah, I guess. So there's a new currency out called Chia, if for everyone who doesn't know. And,
oh my god!
Yeah,
Like
you
Chia
use
Pet?
Yeah, like Chia Pet, right? And so the difference is, and this actually just follows up with what do you call it? Abusing cryptocurrency or crypto mining, right? So in this particular blockchain based cryptocurrency, they use proof of storage as opposed to or proof of space as opposed to proof of work, which is doing computational math, mostly hashes, or proof of stake, which is ownership, which actually doesn't really have any mining involved. But proof of space uses hard drive space. So you actually save files and then you use those to make proofs. And so hard drive prices, if everyone doesn't know, are up like crazy because of that right now. And I wouldn't be surprised in the near future to see that be another transition, right? Because there's a lot of extra space, and instead of locking all your files, they just burn up all your storage on your NAS for that extra 300 terabytes or whatever. So
is it actually all hard drives are up, or is it just SSDs? Because I heard it was only SSDs last.
Oh no, it's both. It's both. Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, because a lot of people are using the SSDs to make the plots as fast as they can, and then they're using the hard drives to store the plots because you don't need a very fast hard drive, and
makes sense. Yeah,
space is blah blah blah. So now I don't know the logistics of actually how that would work, or how you would actually be able to like turn this into an attack vector to try to make extra money. But yeah, it is the new thing to, I would say, waste up a bunch of hard drive space. I mean, it depends on the word waste, right? But it is more efficient as far as power goes. I think that was the other big drive. So
sure.
Oh gosh, crypto, it's not going away, guys.
All right, how about this guy? Whose was this?
Oh, that was mine. Let me get it pulled up as well. Or did I close the article somehow? Anyhow, this is not, I don't know, there's a ton to talk about with this, but I really found it interesting. So this is an actual, it's a use after free in http.sys, which is obviously, it affects like IIS, because that would use http.sys, but it also affects WinRM, which like I just worked a lot with WinRM in the past, and I find anything that involves WinRM to be interesting at a minimum. But I was just kind of curious as to what your guys' thoughts about this exploit was, because I mean, in almost any modern Active Directory setup, WinRM is enabled by default. So,
what can you do here? Can you get code execution, or I mean, oh, okay. I'm just seeing the blue screen in the GIF. That's all. I'm like, oh, man,
yeah, that was the example. But I did some other stuff, and they were saying code execution was possible.
Yeah, I could definitely see this getting weaponized if WinRM is enabled, right?
Now, is this in any way related to anything to do with Exchange? Obviously, Exchange, if you're hosting Exchange on-prem, you're running IIS. I'm curious if that is an entry point, because we already know that everyone's scanning looking for vulnerable Exchange servers. I'm wondering if they're going to stumble across any of these type systems that are exposed as a collateral damage, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and even WinRM has some stuff that's just like you use Shodan to find that it's just sitting right there on the internet. I mean, there's several of them. I think IIS was the biggest, but then like right below that was WinRM as far as available ports that Shodan saw. I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting exploit, and it's an interesting POC for sure. But
Oh, definitely one to play with here, especially on internals. That's where I could see this being pretty effective, right? Some lateral movement, especially if you can get some code execution. It's horrible if it happens externally, though, right? IIS.
yes, you should not. For those who don't know, you should not have WinRM on the internet. Just gonna throw that out there. If you have WinRM on the internet, you should turn that off now.
Yeah.
I learned something today. I already forgot what it was, but I had learned something briefly today.
You use Macs, you're fine. This is a Windows thing.
Oh, there. Okay.
I was also going to say, if your IP addresses show up in Shodan, you should probably block Shodan, right? And then fix what ports are open. Right?
That does make sense. Yes, that does track.
Does track, right? I mean, scanners are going to scan. I mean, do you really want them in a database to make it easier to find? I'm just saying, right? First, patch the ports, whatever it's open, right? It's supposed to be, if 443 is supposed to be open and you don't want it behind a CDN, then it is what it is, right? But whether you want someone scanning that or not, maybe not, right? Especially if you're using a CDN, just something to consider, because that way you can correlate where the actual IP is versus where the CDN is. A lot of times customers will implement CDN policies to prevent different kinds of web attacks, right? So they're going to put a WAFT in there and all this other fun stuff. But if the IP address, the real IP address, is of the target, and you can get that via like the SSL transparency logs or whatever, and you can just go directly to that IP because you're not only allowing the CDN, then you can bypass all of those security controls. So just take that into consideration. Usually if your IP address is appearing up in Shodan, just kind of means you don't really, you're not blocking anything. Everything can find you, right? So
just think how much money you could save on vulnerability scanners if you used Shodan as your vulnerability scanner.
There's whole companies. Census is another one that just do this all day, all day long, scanning the internet like every 30 seconds, just getting in all of that data and then selling it, actually. But yeah. Cool vulnerability, though. I would be interested to see it getting that, code execution, right? Taking it to the next level. But it's pretty fresh, right? Only 8 days.
Yeah, it's very new.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out if Esteban is saying that we can blame the interns for having our ports exposed to Shodan. That's how I interpret this, is that we can just blame the interns for this.
The reason they found our open FTP server on Shodan, it was the intern's fault. I told him to take care of that. Didn't do it. Nothing to do with anything else. Is actually all his fault, though. We've taken care of the intern, but not the problem.
Yes, exactly.
Speaking of not taking care of the problem,
what do we got
I
here?
know there are some.
Yeah,
there are some stories about the leads of the companies. They want exclusions from their own security policies, or I think that's what this would be.
This is absolutely a do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, no, that's
scenario.
I'm biting my tongue at the second, so we'll see.
Yeah,
if we can get me out of that mode for a minute. But for a second, I'm just going to hold my tongue on this one.
Yeah. So here's the broader question: should people in your organization have exceptions to your security policy, right? And if they should, why and when is it a good idea, right? I think, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of times I actually do see this with C-level and other people who have high clout inside the organization, where it's just kind of like, I don't want to do that. And I'm kind of the boss around here. So can I get, can we make this work, right? For me. And we also find that a lot of times those particular policies are the weaknesses that we end up exploiting and, moving through the organization. So when you're making these exceptions to policy, I mean, knowing not just who it is or how it's going to affect, but like, in that place. I mean, like a lot of times this particularly is probably something to do with password policy. Oh, I don't want to have to enter 12 characters or 18 or whatever it is, right? I want to use my I don't want a password that expires, other stuff like that, right? And how that's going to affect the organization if something does happen. So,
or if you ever see a Wii on a corporate network and you wonder why there's a Wii on a corporate network, it's probably because the CFO's kid is playing on said Wii.
I'm actually a supporter of different security policies, and not probably the way you think, but in my opinion, your users should have a policy, and then your C-level should have a different policy, but that should actually be more restrictive than what users are. In my opinion,
get behind that, yes.
They're higher visibility, they're busier, so they're, no offense to them, to any of them if they're listening, but they're probably less likely to pick up on some things that might get them into trouble. And not through any fault of their own, it's just the nature of the job.
Well, and I mean, your normal users, they have to worry about normal phishing. But your C-suite, they have to worry about like whaling and targeted spear phishing attempts. I mean, like they're in a different sphere.
Yeah. Not to mention the visibility or the publicity that goes along with it. If your intern causes a problem, it's bad. But if your CSO, gets hacked, or that's.
I don't know. I think SolarWinds is going to argue on that one with you.
Well.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely one of those things that we have to think about. I mean, I'm kind of paraphrasing this article, right? And like the idea that, we have special policies, but I do kind of agree that, if you are implementing special policies, that they should kind of fall in line. So, with who they are and, having tiered policies, right? People who are more high value targets should probably have stronger security, not less. All that other kind of stuff, right? It should go up, not down. So,
yep, crabs go up, not down. Speaking of,
the only thing I would have to, sorry, Ryan, but the only thing I'd have to say about that is, okay, so we've established that, but like, how would we even start to implement that? That's the hardest part of this whole thing, is how would you even start to implement something where you can go to your CFO and say, hey, we're going to make it even harder for you. And then them not say like, no, that's ridiculous. Like, get out of here. Or I'll find someone else to run my IT, all right. Just seems tricky. I mean, that's an extreme level. Like, you require even more buy-in from your executives at that point, and it doesn't exist. At least right now, I think we need to work on the relationship first, almost.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we got attackers looking for soft targets, and a lot of times C-levels can be soft targets. So,
yep.
That's it. They're doing other things. Security and IT is not their primary lane. So, all right,
you can give them a reason.
Yeah, right.
And this might be one of them.
Whoa, this is why you should have a better password policy. We could save some money, guys. Cyber insurance premiums are going up. How could this be? It doesn't make any sense.
I'm not aware of any significant events that would maybe have impacted this recently, but
actually, no, it makes no sense. They should only be going down. I see no attacks anymore. In fact, we're almost out of a job. I mean, it's ridiculous. That scale should be graph should be inversed. I don't know. Yeah. So, I mean, what do you guys think? No, they're going up.
This one I thought was interesting because there was an article last week, I believe it was. I think it was with the pipeline, the insurance company the pipeline was using, and I may be wrong on this, so don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure they said they are no longer covering ransom incidents as part of their insurance package. So it makes me wonder how many of these are having the fine print that they don't cover ransomware, and are people subscribing to these or purchasing these insurance packages thinking they're covered when without reading the fine print, and maybe they're not actually covered, and they're kind of setting themselves up for a disappointment. Because what typically happens was when you get insurance, you kind of get have a bit more relaxed, right? Like, oh, our insurance cover, we'll cover that. It's not not the end of the world. But someone's going to get bit. An insurance plan's not going to save their bacon, and Yikes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
especially
mean-
for ransom.
And sometimes they'll even say like, "Oh, hey, do you cover ransomware?" And they'll be like, "Oh, yes, absolutely, we cover ransomware." But they won't tell you that like, "Oh, but if that ransomware is linked to some sort of APT actor, the insurance companies can classify it as an act of war, or something like that, and then they can get out of paying it as well." So they have their loopholes.
I was just about to say we lost Ralph, but there he is.
No, I just had to.
He just really didn't want to hear what I was talking about there.
I actually
Take
was
his
like, I
headphones
hated
off.
everything you have to say, so I had to run.
That's fair. I get it. But yeah, I think that we were kind of talking about this a little bit before, but I personally don't care for the concept of cyber insurance. Like I understand it has a purpose, and I'm not even saying that it's bad per se, but the mentality around cyber insurance doesn't seem very good. Because it's like buying insurance, then saying, "Oh, because I've bought insurance, and it ensures that my primary office building won't burn down, I'm not going to install fire suppression equipment into my office building because the insurance covers it." But if that building burns down, you have a lot of time and effort in getting a new building set up. I mean, even if you pay the ransom, it still takes a long time to decrypt your stuff, get everything up and running, make sure everything's out of your environment. This is not like a solution necessarily by itself even. And I think a lot of people are approaching it thinking that it's a full solution.
Well, that makes me think of a question. You're going to say, Dale?
I was gonna say it's another.
Policy.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's another layer. You know, you got to have multiple layers of defense, and cyber insurance, you know, may or may not be an appropriate one for your business. But if you do buy cyber insurance, definitely don't think of it as the only thing that's going to save you, because you're going to be disappointed.
If there are companies that want to get into the cyber insurance market, do these companies have any authority to say that we won't cover you as a company unless you meet certain criteria in your security settings? Is that a thing? Could that be a thing? Could this change the way that works?
I mean, you shouldn't have car insurance if you don't have a driver's license, right? Or should be valid. I mean, I don't know.
But you can get discounts, like you got airbags, you get ABS,
and all that stuff should matter.
Carrots to.
I do think that it affects their
install the fire
premiums
suppressing
and stuff. From some of the people I have talked about who've talked about buying cyber insurance, that if you meet certain benchmarks, if your password policy is such and you use this equipment or this technology, like it'll adjust your premiums based on what's in your environment. But some people also are like, well, I'll just take the high premiums.
It's cheaper than actually implementing the right security. You know?
Well, I mean, and if you think about it, like maybe you have absolutely nothing, and so you buy cyber insurance. That's still, I mean, possibly your premiums for several years will still be cheaper than hiring a full-time security analyst to run your security equipment that you now have to buy. I don't know. I never tried to buy cyber insurance, so I'm kind of talking out of turn here now. But
yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I don't know the whole ins and outs of the pricing structure or whatever. But I mean, I can imagine that they're going on risk, obviously, and they're looking at it as, hey, how risky is this, and how often do people pay out, and so on and so forth. I mean, the prices are going up, so obviously they're paying out more than they want to. So they're trying
to fair assessment.
Yeah, they're trying to make it up, but at the end of the day, insurance is not about making things safer. It is about making money. So
next article.
Yep.
Microsoft Edge's new password is rolling out.
It's going to read all of your passwords, send them to Bill Gates because he needs them so we can log into your Facebook and post on your behalf. I'm just kidding. I made all of that.
But then you'll get 5G out of it, so that's good.
Free 5G.
Only in metropolitan areas with the correct coverage, with the right phone.
This one's not actually available to everybody yet. I think it's part of the Windows Insider program, I believe.
Ooh,
not everyone is getting this, and Firefox and Chrome already have this. So thanks for playing. Thanks for coming to the game.
Ooh, well, I mean, technically, Edge is actually just Chromium. Excuse me, it's built from the Chromium, so it's really the same thing. We all drive the same kind of car now, except for
We all eat at Taco Bell's.
Except for the Firefox people.
yeah, no, that's its own special thing. But I mean, a lot of the password managers. This is doing password audit, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah, I think the thought behind this is that if your password shows up on a breach, or is this one? This one I think gives you some kind of a score by the looks of the screenshot, but it's hard to tell. I mean, I don't have access to it, so I can't play with it.
I mean, I assume that they're kind of stealing the concept from LastPass's password audit idea, which I'm actually curious as to how they're doing it. Are they actually using hashes and just comparing your password hashes, or are they actually taking your decrypted passwords and like submitting them looking for stuff, looking for breach reports, including them and stuff like that? I mean, I prefer one over the other personally.
Ooh, yeah. Whether your passwords are weak or been reused across accounts. All right. Yeah, I mean that's something that LastPass and a couple of the other ones have been doing for a while. I mean, there's a bunch of different levels to this. I know 1Password's got Watchtower and all this other stuff. So like the three big things that they're trying to do with passwords is one, look to see if you're reusing them inside of the current password database. Okay. Do you have a bunch of the same passwords inside your password manager? That's a no-no. Number two would be looking at like complexity. Do you have a bunch of passwords that are weak, right? Low length, only no numbers, no complexity requirements. And then the third thing is then checking password database breaches. Okay, so seeing, is this password pretty common? Is it password one? Because that's a bad password. That's been publicly.
How did you know my password?
I know. It's a gift. It's wild. But if it's been out there and looking at those databases, usually when it queries for password databases, it uses a hash, hopefully. So you're not actually disclosing the fact that you use password one, because that's a bad idea. The other two, though, the looking for complexity and then comparing in the database, I think it just does that client side as opposed to necessarily sending off the password to see if you're reusing it a bunch of times. It could easily query the database and say, hey, does this password appear in any other entry? And hey, does this particular password does it have special characters, or does it meet this 9-character length or whatever it may be? That is not some AI driven technology. You can easily write that client side. So I think those are the three big things for password.
They have all this awesome C2 infrastructure. I mean, telemetry. So why wouldn't they ship it over that?
Oh God, you have a great point. All your passwords are gone. They've all been disclosed. The best part, if you use the same password for everything, then you don't have to worry about it, right? I mean, it's just so much easier. I'm kidding. Don't do that.
We're not even going to address that comment, by the way. So
yes, use a randomly generated password for all sites every time. Just assume whenever you sign up for a website, it will be breached tomorrow. And when they get your randomly generated long password, doesn't matter, because it only works on whatever form.org or something that you signed up for. So, or
just don't even know your password and use the forgot password link every time, because if you don't know it, nobody knows it.
That should be the new password and the restrictions for all C levels.
You have to reset your password every day.
Password. Yeah.
No, your password expires after 24 hours. Just every time. Just it's a one time. Like, you're always just chasing a new password change, man. Yeah, that wouldn't be a very good policy to enforce.
Yeah, yes. For our audience, if you don't know, most of the ideas I suggest, you should probably not listen to them. Do the opposite of those things.
Expect a lot of turnover in the Infosec team at that organization.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, passwords suck. All right, let's just be realistic. So,
all right, let's move on.
Ransomware. What?
This is hard to read, so let's go into read mode. There it is.
This one I found humorous because, it was a case where Bitdefender around Christmas time discovered there was some issues with the encryption keys that DarkSide was using in their malware, and said, "Hey, here's some issues with the." They made an announcement basically, and then they said, "Well, here's a fix. You can use this free decryptor tool." And then the folks at DarkSide said, "Oh, hey, thanks for pointing that out for us. We're just going to fix that. Now your decryptor tool no longer works." So it was a cat and mouse game that was going on with this one.
I think, isn't this kind of article talking about the fact that like these big hacks end up being a big opportunity for marketing for security firms? Because they are, regardless, right? You see it all the time when something like this happens. They go, "Hey, look, we could do this." I mean, like handing out or figuring out how to decrypt the ransomware. That's pretty useful. So, I wouldn't say that's like hey, check this out. But whenever something like this big happens, they're like, "Hey, check it out. We can help prevent this from happening to you," right? Kind of like the best PR thing. I think that this one was about Bitdefender, right?
Yes,
it was. Yeah.
One takeaway I had from this though was that I don't totally understand what they were what they were aiming at here, because if you have the decryption keys or you have a way to decrypt the ransomware, like what are you going to do with it? I mean, you can hold on to it, which makes that entire decryption system worthless. Or you can release it to the public, in which case they'll patch it and it becomes worthless. So if you hold it, who do you hold it for? Like, what reason do you not have to release it? I just am like, so I'm like, it makes me, I read the whole article and I'm like, why was this written entirely? Like, what was the goal behind it? I don't understand,
It kind of feels like, and we've talked about this multiple times about like, security researchers releasing proof of concept code for different vulnerabilities, like sometimes some of the really big ones, for example, the Exchange. And this is kind of the flip side. It's like vulnerability researchers or security researchers releasing the decryption tools for this. Like both you're telling the enemy and helping the victim, right? At the same time, it's the same when security researchers release that proof of concept. You're helping the enemy and helping the victim at the same time, right? You might be like, okay, well, how does this help? You could use this in your attack, right? And now it puts a bigger mark and makes it easier. So I don't know. It's just like two sides of this coin. Should you just not do anything and just step back and just be like, well, doing anything hurts too much, right?
Well, or do you kind of like sandbag this and just wait until something like Colonial happens, in which case someone sends an anonymous message to the CEO of Colonial, says, "Hey, meet me behind this dumpster in this dark alleyway," and some guy in a trench coat comes out and says, "Hey, do you want to buy some decryption software?"
The only way to
that's
do
the only thing you could do that with. Almost like you either hold it for something that you consider to be a big enough event to be worthy of showing your cards, or you release it to the public. Yeah. Or you just hold it forever and be selfish.
No, you sell it. You ransomware them for the ransomware decryption. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. I will sell it to you for half the price that they're charging. It's a bug bounty.
The bug bounty.
Yes, I'm saving you money and time. I'm kind of like Robin Hood, right?
If Robin Hood was stealing from Robin Hood.
Yes, exactly. The intentions are good. How it actually plays out, you never know. And it's like one of those things that's big. Like a lot of times they probably don't know who's actually affected by this. And a lot of companies probably aren't being very public about the fact that they were infected. In fact, I'm sure this pipeline wouldn't have said anything if they didn't have to. Whatever. But having stuff like this or releasing tools like that, I think that releasing it's probably still for the better good, because at least there'll be some window for people to hopefully, either that or you have to meet in the back alley with a trench coat for somebody who's selling decryption keys, right? And that's how weird.
If you have decryption keys to sell, that's how you should sell them.
You must show up in a trench coat. It must be in a dark alley. Just all the nuances, right?
Yes.
Speaking of stealing,
the transitions are on indicted
Yeah.
We've never seen
Stealing
anything like this
classified
before.
info on cybersecurity work.
This is new. We've never seen this before.
No.
Have we?
No. No classified information ever gets
No.
sold or released.
Certainly not.
There's never anybody in the FBI who flips sides or anything like that.
Insider threats are a real thing. If you guys didn't know that,
there was a whole TV show on this kind of thing.
Yeah,
Although it took place in the 80s, it was about Russia.
Isn't that all of the Tom Clancy novels? No.
Probably. I didn't read all of them or any of them, but it's probably.
50 terabytes of documents. What the hell did he put that in? It wasn't a thumb drive.
Yeah, who's got 50 terabytes in their house?
Wait, you guys don't have a 50 terabyte thumb drive?
I need one, honestly.
Storage is getting much smaller nowadays,
You
guys.
can use that for your Chia.
Yeah, exactly. If I just got these big USB hubs full of 50 terabyte thumb drives. That'd be awesome, man.
There we go. Blake figured out what show I was talking about. The Americans.
And he's right. It's a fantastic show.
Yes. He probably exported all of these classified documents via Dropbox because that sounds like a good idea, right?
or Amazon or something. One of those clouds.
Yeah.
It was a cloud. And that government internet service, I never put myself full screen. Here we go. That government internet service is really, really fast. So it's probably
fiber optics.
Long.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so what about this article? Just the idea that, obviously we have espionage in our own U.S. government. Yeah, sure. But let's think about it. Let's step back just one more step and think about just insider threats, like a broader picture. Insider threats inside of your organization and how you can hopefully, try to prevent that, right? I mean, this is classified information, so obviously there was probably some kind of deal for large amounts of money for some other nation state or whatever. I mean, I'm just guessing here without even diving into all the details. 50 terabytes seems like a pretty good operation, right? Like most people don't really care about taking that much data unless you're getting paid. But inside of your organization, insider threats are probably just as prevalent too, right? I mean, typically nation states aren't going to be paying for that information, but you have competitors and other things like that. And typically, your internal users are the ones who are most likely to, pull the intern thing or also leak information that shouldn't be. So, I mean, how you protect that information and that chain of custody. And if you think about it too, the government actually has decent data classification, much better than most actual organizations. So, I mean, what do you do here, right? You could do, what do you call it? Data loss prevention and other things like that. And all of those are just like kind of a nightmare. But really the big thing is you just need to figure out what data is important that you don't want to, be given out to everybody, right?
I mean, the other thing that you can, with this particular case, but sometimes, if you look at other incidents like this in the past, if you have user analytics, and you should have user analytics, your user analytics should be alerting to the fact that, hey, this user at most downloads a couple gigs a day, and they just downloaded 50 terabytes, classified or not. If your user is downloading 50 terabytes, I don't care how productive they are.
Yes.
They probably can't process 50 terabytes of data in a single day.
I mean,
so what was the time period on this? So was it 50 terabytes of data downloaded in one day, or did they download, a little bit here, a little bit there over the course of 2-3 months, in which case your user analytics is not really going to be too helpful there because it's going to see that as eventually it's going to normalize that as normal traffic.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't say how, or at least I don't see it in this article that how
I'm not even serious.
Long
saw 50 terabytes.
A former national security agent constable was sentenced to 9 years in federal prison in 2019 for stealing 50 terabytes of documents, some of which touched the CIA sources and NSA capabilities just last year. I think. All right, so I think they're talking about some other cases of 50 terabyte or cases of people stealing documents, right?
Yeah, I guess it does say in 2019.
Yeah. Well, there's that. Stealing 50 terabytes would take a while, though. Just think about that, right? Like that's if you're going to do it slow. But I mean, so back to the bigger picture, because obviously most people that are listening to this news aren't working for the federal government or necessarily making those policies. But insider threats are still real inside of a lot of organizations, and just like securing the data and some classification, right? And they detected it. And yes, this stuff is happening. Espionage is still happening. It's going to continue to happen. But just thinking about your data inside of your organization, and like you said, some of the controls in place that you might want to put. You shouldn't be emailing everything to each other. That's another thing too, right? Don't send your coworker your 50 gig, file
in a Gmail attachment.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus, dude. Just everything anywhere, right? And just wrangling in all that data inside your organization. I mean, I've done engagements where you have like a bank that's got like 500 terabytes of PDF documents, man. Just so much PII just on like a share, with everyone to have access to it. So,
but it was a hidden share.
No, it wasn't hidden. That thing was like, yo, man, this is where we dump all of the data. This is the data dump. This was like the ransomware honeypot engagement. Like I could have sworn if this company got ransomware, they were screwed. But anyways.
No way this is real.
No way this is all a game.
Well, I got one article left.
Oh, the last
Noah
is the best.
It's going to make you happy.
Oh.
Getting persistent shell on a 747 iffy.
Yeah.
Or IFE, whatever that is.
So I just thought this was a really interesting read primarily, and I guess like we'll make sure the link gets into the chat. But like, yeah, I really recommend some people read through this. It's very detailed and it covers some really interesting stuff about persistent shells on. I think this computer is running like NT4 here. I just love like aviation and aviation computers. Now, granted, they need to be like rock stable as well. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a really fantastic read. It's not necessarily as interesting as like ADS-B. But still pretty cool. It does require like physical access to a 747, and the technology is
that's easy to come by. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I have a 747 just sitting in the backyard, but
what's interesting that I didn't notice on this one when I first read it. Initially, when I first read it, I picked up on it. This is from 1996. But what I didn't notice is way at the top of the article that said that this plane was in service until last year. So the fact that a plane with technology that hasn't been patched since 1996 was still in flight a year ago is kind of scary. I mean, I get it. You do have to have physical access, and the flight attendants are probably going to notice if you're standing up there plugging USB drives or floppy drives.
No, floppy drive
into the flight entertainment system. But still, I mean.
It's those 3D printed save icons.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
I just look at this browser webpage. That's nostalgia right there.
Classic. I mean, the forgotten computers of the world, right? I mean, again, go on Shodan, you can find some of those forgotten people. They're still there, and connected to the internet, just chugging along. But I mean, another industry that's really ripe for this is healthcare. Anything that requires a lot of what do you call it? Regulation.
Stability.
Regulation and like certification, planes, medical devices, all this other stuff. And they can't change any of this stuff. Like they can't just be like, oh, we got an over-the-air update and the plane crashed. Whoops.
Yeah, the planes
would definitely make the news. So we would be talking about it on the news if that happened.
Yeah. I mean, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. And sometimes security gets in the way of that, right? Updating is dangerous.
I do think it's interesting. Go ahead, Ryan.
We were talking about this one a little bit before we went live on the air, and I was bringing up another example of old tech which is the McLaren F1 supercar from the mid-90s. I saw an article a couple of years ago that said to repair or service one of those supercars, you need an old compact computer. So if you see a McLaren F1 for auction, the computer might be with it because that's the only way to service the CPU on the car's engine for the timing and all that stuff. It requires this really old computer, which is amazing to think of this multi-million-dollar legendary supercar, and you still need this computer from 1996 to operate on the car and keep the car running.
Isn't that how all of our nuclear missiles are still operated by floppy disk and old computers? And the reason we still do it, and I mean, I'm not absolutely sure this is still what we're doing, but the reason we still do it is because it's really hard to hack, right? I mean, no one's got the gear.
Feature, not a bug. That's right.
Yeah, and it's not broken. I mean, I don't need to update it. It probably is riddled with security vulnerabilities that have been discovered over the years, and not necessarily those systems, but just like the general concepts of these security vulnerabilities. But because you can't touch it and you don't even have a disk drive to, it's just all the custom stuff you need. I guess it adds that is security. Old stuff is secure because you can't access it, or, because you don't have the gear to use it anymore.
Security by obscurity.
Yeah. Oh man.
This is more security by antiquity.
Antiquity.
By antiquity.
Yeah. New terminology.
Well, by the way, on many engagements recently, when I do find older machines like 2003s, 2000, all of the new payloads that I have, they don't work on that stuff, right? Because I'm looking at all EDR and all these other techniques, and all of that crap is out the window when you get on these old boxes. You got to revert, just go backwards. It's nuts. All the .NET that I'm used to using, it's wild.
So the moral of the story is you should be running the oldest tech you could possibly find.
No.
That's right. Fueling the fire to those arguments, never update.
Yeah,
that's right.
I mean, I still got access. I just had to go backwards in stuff that's been done in the past, right? In this article, we talked about NT 4.0. You could still get a shell on it. You're just not going to use the stuff you use right now because it's going to require dependencies that you don't have, right? Not on that box, or something that just burns up all the RAM because it only has 20 megs. So
you can't use Chrome on Windows NT4.
No.
Sorry to break it to you guys.
Dang it.
I do think it's interesting though. We talked about how patching is really hard on these systems, but it does make me wonder on the new systems, the ones that are coming out of the factories today. Can you honestly tell me that they're running Windows 10 Pro? I know a majority of them are probably running some form of Linux, but are they even really coming out of the factory with modern systems, do you think?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know that I think they are.
I mean, you've seen the transition with IoT stuff, right? They're moving on to more embedded platforms. I know Microsoft released their kind of IoT platform, and you're oh, does it have to be a refrigerator to be IoT? No, it could just be any device where you're going to have, a dedicated computer running on it that will probably be in there for a while, and how that platform operates and how you maintain it and all the other, funsy stuff, right? Honestly, I think Windows 10 or Windows period would be a horrible embedded platform for any of this stuff. But but
even at that point, is Windows 10 IoT? Do you really want your new commercial airliner running on Windows 10 IoT?
I've got the blue screen just. But by the way, for anyone who has been on an airplane, there's redundant everything, so there should be redundant Windows 10 IoTs, right? So they got to crash together. But
fun.
But
well,
I
think that's it, guys.
Oh yeah, I think we definitely ran that hour through, didn't we?
Yeah, it's 5:30. Went through all the links.
Yeah, I hate it when I have to reboot the airplane. That's the worst time ever.
Especially when you're in flight and you're hold on. Oh man, it's updating right now. Waiting for the circle.
Hey,
I can't land right now. Only half my gear is down.
This is your captain speaking. We're going to have to take a couple extra circles because Windows is rebooting right now. Hopefully it'll come back up. It always does, and we're going to land you on time, and very nice weather today. There you go.
As long as we land.
Yeah, as long as we land. You never know.
Landing, we should land this. Final transition.
Final transition. It's the final.
Land this. Oh, you give me. Is that a link I need there?
No, like land.
Oh, that's
live-
old.
Oh, all right.
I didn't close my window. I thought you just sent me a link.
Let's stop beating this dead horse and making horrible jokes. All right, everybody.
All right.
Thanks for checking out our newscast today. Listen to articles, and we appreciate you guys. And we'll talk to you guys all soon next Monday. Monday.
No.
Tuesday.
Oh, we're gonna do it Tuesday.
Yeah, Monday's a holiday, so we will not be here.
That is right. Neither can I speak nor know the day that we'll be doing the news. That's how good I am at this.
If you're listening and you want to see us live, it's going to be on Tuesday.
Yep, that's right. Everyone enjoy your Memorial Day.
For anyone in the States.
Yeah, for everyone in the States. Exactly. Anyways, we'll be on Tuesday then. All right, guys. Burn it with fire. Burn it down. I got to, no.